Undercover lady boss rents her own luxury apartment. Can't believe what she hears from the tenants behind her. Catherine Harris, the CEO of Harris Developments, had spent years building her real estate empire. Her luxury apartments were supposed to represent the pinnacle of comfort, security, and high-end living. At least that's what she had always believed. Lately, however, complaints had been trickling in. First a few, then a flood. Reports of unexpected rent increases, hidden fees, broken facilities, and frustrated tenants were piling up on her desk. At first, she trusted her team's assurances that these were isolated incidents, the usual grumbles that came with running high-end properties. But something gnawed at her. She had built this company on the promise of quality and fairness. If there was even a hint of exploitation under her watch, she needed to see it with her own eyes. So she made a radical decision. She rented one of her own luxury apartments under a fake identity, stepping into the very world she had built. But this time, not as the powerful CEO, not as the woman in charge. She became just another tenant, one of the many people who entrusted her company with their homes, their hard-earned money, their sense of security. As she walked through the grand lobby, a strange feeling settled in her chest. This place, once a symbol of her success, now felt unfamiliar. Had she lost touch with what truly went on behind the polished marble floors and glistening chandeliers? If there was rot beneath the surface, corruption eating away at the integrity of her business, she was going to see it with her own eyes. She wasn't just here to investigate. She was here to feel what her tenants felt, to live their frustrations, their struggles, to understand, not as an outsider looking in, but as someone experiencing it firsthand. For the first time in years, Catherine Harris was no longer the boss. She was just Kate Mitchell, and she had no idea what she was about to uncover. She picked a penthouse suite, a corner apartment with stunning floor-to-ceiling windows. The view stretched across the city like a masterpiece, the skyline glittering under the night sky. It was breathtaking, just as she had envisioned when she first approved the designs. This was supposed to be a dream home. But the moment she stepped into the daily life of the building, that dream started to crack. The concierge greeted her, but his smile was forced, his eyes darting nervously like he was afraid to say too much. The maintenance staff barely made eye contact, moving quickly, avoiding unnecessary conversation. Even the tenants, they didn't carry themselves like people living in luxury. They looked drained, defeated, like they were trapped in a place that no longer felt like home. Then came the inconveniences. On her second day, she stepped into the elevator, only for the lights to flicker and the doors to freeze mid-closing. A long beep sounded and nothing happened. She sighed and pressed the button again. Still nothing. A man standing behind her muttered under his breath, shaking his head. "Figures. It's been like this for days." A woman beside him scoffed. "Days? Try weeks. I've called the office 3 times. They say a part needs to be ordered, but we both know what that means." The man chuckled bitterly. "It means Greg doesn't want to spend the money." Catherine froze. "Greg? Who was Greg?" The woman continued, lowering her voice but still loud enough for Catherine to hear. "Yeah, you know how this works. They raise the rent, charge insane fees, but when it comes to actually fixing things, suddenly the budget's tight." The man sighed. "I moved here because I thought it was worth it. Luxury living, right? Now I'm paying more than ever, and my apartment's falling apart. You know what's worse? My buddy in 9C told me the landlord fees were increased, but not for everyone. Some people are paying way less." The woman's eyebrows shot up. "Wait, what? So they're picking and choosing who gets overcharged?" "Sounds like it." He let out a dry laugh. "We should be used to it by now. This place is a gold mine, but not for us. Someone's raking in the extra cash, and it sure as hell isn't going back into the building." Catherine's stomach twisted. She had built this company on trust, on integrity. If what they were saying was true, if someone was squeezing these tenants for every last dime while letting the building rot, then it wasn't just mismanagement, it was theft, and she was going to find out exactly who was behind it. One evening, as Catherine walked toward her apartment, the weight of her suspicions pressing heavy on her chest, she heard voices behind her, urgent, hushed, but laced with frustration. She slowed her steps, keeping her head down, pretending to check her phone. A couple, Tina and Mark, stood near the dimly lit hallway, their backs against the wall, voices thick with exhaustion. "I can't do this anymore, Mark," Tina said, her voice shaking. "Another rent increase? We're paying almost double what we were 2 years ago. How is that even legal?" Mark exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "And for what? The elevator's a joke. The AC barely works. And did you see the new fees? Luxury maintenance adjustment? What does that even mean?" Tina's voice dropped lower, her tone turning almost fearful. "I heard something worse." Mark frowned. "Worse than us getting ripped off every month?" Tina glanced around before leaning closer. "Someone in management is pocketing the extra money. They're inflating rents, adding fake charges. That's why nothing's getting fixed. The cash isn't going into maintenance, it's going offshore." Catherine's breath hitched. Mark's face darkened. "Who told you that?" "Lena, from 11B. Her cousin used to work in the office. Said Greg." Catherine's blood ran cold. That name again, Greg. Tina swallowed hard. "He's been hiking rents and making up new fees, but he's not working alone. Someone higher up is helping him hide the money. That's why no one's stopping him." Mark clenched his fists. "They're stealing from us, and there's nothing we can do about it." Catherine clenched her jaw, her pulse pounding. "Number. There's something I can do." She had heard enough. The anger in her chest burned hotter than ever. This wasn't just incompetence or poor management. This was deliberate. This was fraud. Someone had turned her company into their personal cash machine, preying on people who trusted her name. Catherine needed proof, real, undeniable evidence, and she was going to get it. For the next few days, she played the role of an observant tenant, keeping her ears open, her eyes sharper than ever. She asked polite, casual questions, nothing too obvious, just enough to see who got nervous. She watched Greg, the building manager. He always dressed a little too well for a man on a mid-level salary. His watch, luxury brand, his shoes, designer. And yet when tenants begged him to fix the broken elevator, or the leaky pipes, or the failing AC, he always had the same excuse. "Sorry, budget's tight this month, we're working on it." Tight budget? She had personally allocated millions for maintenance. Where was the money going? Then there was Sarah, the financial controller. Catherine noticed she and Greg were always too friendly. They whispered in the hallways, met in the management office late at night when the building was nearly empty. Twice, Catherine caught Greg handing her an envelope. Cash? Documents? She didn't know yet, but she knew it wasn't innocent. She needed hard proof. That night, Catherine locked herself in her apartment, heart pounding, and pulled out her laptop. Using her CEO-level access, she dove into the company's financial records. At first, everything seemed normal. Standard transactions, payroll, maintenance costs. But then she dug deeper. Hidden beneath layers of seemingly routine expenses, she found massive, unexplained withdrawals, artificial rent increases, inflated maintenance fees for work that was never done, fake repair costs charged to tenants but never reported. And the worst part, the money wasn't going back into the company. It was vanishing. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing the transactions. Shell companies, offshore accounts. Millions of dollars had been funneled out of her business, stolen from people who trusted her name. And at the center of it all, Greg and Sarah. They had been bleeding tenants dry for years, covering their tracks with fake paperwork, fabricated expenses, and endless excuses. Catherine clenched her fists, her breathing ragged. They thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. Her stomach churned with rage. She had built this company with integrity, with a promise that luxury meant security, comfort, and trust. These two had turned it into a predatory scheme, exploiting the very people she swore to protect. She wasn't just going to stop them, she was going to destroy them. But before we get to what happens next, make sure to subscribe if you love seeing justice served. This is just getting started, and trust me, you won't want to miss how this all plays out. Now back to the story. The next morning, Catherine called an emergency staff meeting. The tension in the room was thick, the air heavy with anticipation. Every employee, leasing agents, maintenance workers, and front desk staff sat in confused silence. unaware that this meeting was about to change everything. Greg strolled in last, his usual smug confidence radiating off him as he plopped into a chair. Sarah sat beside him, her arms crossed, cool and composed. Neither of them had any idea that their empire of lies was about to crumble. Then Catherine walked in, not as Kate Mitchell, the tenant, as Catherine Harris, the CEO. The transformation was immediate. Gone was the quiet, unassuming resident they had dismissed so easily. In her place stood a woman with fire in her eyes and justice in her veins. Greg's eyes flickered with slight confusion. He had never met the CEO before, only heard her name in emails and corporate meetings. To him, she was just another distant executive who rarely showed up, someone to manipulate with carefully crafted reports and excuses. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Catherine's voice was calm, but underneath, there was an edge of steel. "Good morning, everyone. I've been living in this building for a while now. Undercover." A ripple of shock passed through the room. Whispers broke out. Eyes darted toward Greg. She let the words settle like a storm rolling in. Then she took a step forward. "I've seen everything." Silence. "I've seen the broken facilities, the fake fees, the suffering of the tenants." Her voice sharpened. "I've also seen something else. Money being stolen. Money that was supposed to go into maintenance, into repairs, into the very things our tenants pay for. Instead, it's been funneled into offshore accounts, hidden under fake company names. And I know exactly who's behind it." Greg bolted upright. His chair screeched against the floor. His face turned red with panic. "This is ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about." Catherine slammed a thick file onto the table. Hard. The sound echoed through the room. The papers inside spilled out. Bank statements, fraudulent transactions, fake invoices, a bulletproof case. Catherine's eyes burned into his. "You stole from my tenants," she said, her voice a quiet storm. "You stole from me?" A nervous laugh bubbled out of Greg. His hands clenched at his sides. "Look, lady, I don't know who you think you are, but—" Catherine cut him off. "I'm your boss." The color drained from Greg's face. Sarah went completely still. Her usual arrogance vanished. Greg stammered, sweating. "Listen, I don't know how you got that, but you're making a mistake. This isn't what it looks like." Catherine's gaze hardened. "It's exactly what it looks like." The door behind her swung open. 2 security officers stepped in. Sarah shot up from her chair. "You can't do this," she hissed, panic setting in for the first time. Greg's face twisted in horror. "You can't prove anything." Catherine exhaled slowly, shaking her head. "Oh, I can. And I already have." Greg tried to bolt for the door. Security grabbed him mid-step, yanking his arms behind his back. Sarah shrieked as they reached for her, knocking over a glass of water in her desperation. Tenants and staff watched in stunned silence as the 2 criminals were led away, their world crumbling around them. Catherine turned to her employees, the honest ones, the ones who had suffered under this corrupt leadership. "This stops today," she said. "We are rebuilding this place from the ground up. No more lies, no more greed. This company was built on integrity, and that's what we're bringing back." A slow wave of applause started in the back of the room. It grew louder, spreading through the team. Hope returned to their eyes. As Greg and Sarah were shoved into the back of a police car, Catherine walked out of the office with her head held high. With the corruption purged, Catherine wasted no time setting things right. The hidden fees? Eliminated. The stolen money? Traced in return. The broken promises? Finally being mended. She personally oversaw every refund, ensuring that each scam tenant got back what was rightfully theirs. The disbelief in their eyes slowly turned to gratitude. "I never thought I'd see justice," Tina murmured, clutching the refund check in her hands. "Thank you." Catherine wasn't done yet. Major renovations were scheduled immediately. The broken elevators, the failing AC, the water pressure issues, everything was being fixed. No more waiting, no more excuses. But Catherine knew that money alone wouldn't repair the damage. She met with every tenant face to face, something the management had never done before. She listened to their frustrations, their struggles, their fears, and then she apologized. "I let this happen under my watch," she admitted, her voice steady but filled with remorse. "I trusted the wrong people. That's on me." But I promise you, this is a new beginning. For the first time in years, the tenants felt heard. That night, as Catherine stood on the rooftop, looking out over the glittering city skyline, a deep sense of pride swelled in her chest. Not because she had built a luxury empire, but because she had saved it. And this time, she would make sure it stayed honest. If you love stories where justice is served, make sure to subscribe. There's so much more to come, and you don't want to miss it.